Right? Woo! So, I don't know about you guys, I am super excited about tonight. Partly because next week, you know what happens next week? Yeah, new building. Yeah. So, right now, I just want to say we're passing offering around, and it's a perfect time for me to actually talk about it because tonight we're going to be talking about compassion. We're going to be talking about compassion that moves. And offering, what we're doing right now, we support this little girl named Laura, and it's through a ministry called Compassion International. And what they do is we provide a shelter for her, school for her, water, food, clothing. We help her to have a life. And that is compassion. There is action taken. And we're going to talk about it tonight. So I'm going to pray over the offering. I know it's gotten partway through, but let me pray for it really quick, and then we're going to carry on. God, I pray that we would be a people of compassion. Jesus, I pray that we would be a people of action as well. God, I thank you for the opportunity and the ability to be able to bless and provide for Laura. God, I pray that you would open up more opportunities and you continue to keep us doing the work that you have called us to do. In your name, amen. All right, so tonight we are going to be talking about compassion that moves. And the definition of compassion is a form of love is found within us when we are confronted with those who suffer or are vulnerable. A form of love. And it's towards those that may not feel loved, or may feel vulnerable, or those that may be a little down on whether you want to call it luck or life or whatever. But it's a form of love. This last week, I woke up Friday morning super sick. Like, you guys know when you're first sick that everything you do is super taxing? You guys know what I'm talking? So I, being an idiot, decided I woke up sick, and I was like, no, I've got a big mountain bike ride on Saturday. I'm still riding, forget that. And so I go out in the garage and change the sealant in my mountain bike tires. Super easy job, like 15 minutes, right? So I'm doing it, I change the sealant. After I'm done with the second tire, I am so tanked that I walk inside, lay down on the couch, and fall asleep for 2 hours. I was sick, like legitimately sick. And I remember I'm laying on the couch, I had fallen asleep, and I get woken up by my daughter. My daughter's 5, this many. And so she walks up, and she does the whole, it's like, yeah. I was like, hi, sweetheart. And with the most, tender voice, she says, Daddy, how are you feeling? I know. Oh, it gets way better, don't worry. And I go, sweetie, I'm pretty sick. I would really like it if you could just let Daddy sleep a little bit. All right? And so she hurries off. And I think, sweet, that worked. And so I go back to sleep. And a couple minutes later, I get this again. It's like, oh, life with a 5-year-old is awesome. And so I open my eyes, and I'm getting ready to tell her, sweetie, Daddy is really sick and really could use some sleepy time. Like, please leave me alone. I love you. And so I open my eyes, and I'm trying to think of how to say this because she is a sweet little 5-year-old. I don't want to crush her spirit. And so I open my eyes, and she's holding a stuffed animal, Lammy. Okay? I have a picture. It's ridiculous. Yeah. Okay. So, I know, I'm ruined forever. And so she is holding Lammy. Lammy, she has had since the day she was born. Lammy is like that stuffed animal. Yeah, some of you are like, I still have my, yeah. That is Lammy for Kate. Okay. So I open my eyes, getting ready to tell her, sweetie, just let Daddy sleep. And she hands me, she puts Lammy on my chest, and she goes, Daddy, Lammy helps me feel better when I'm sick. Right? And I'm tearing up because I'm a man, and I'm like, that's sweet. sweetheart, go talk to mommy. Like, so then, all right, so my wife has some incriminating pictures of me cuddling with Lammy asleep on the couch. And so I didn't realize I was doing it. It was like, oh, that's sweet, sweetie. I plan on like setting Lammy down. Nope, out cold. Yeah. Lammy works, by the way. And so 2 nights ago, Sunday night, she wakes up to go, I actually wake her up so she goes potty because, well, if I don't do that, she goes potty anyways. And so, so I wake her up, like, sweetie, you need to go potty, okay? And she does her thing, she walks back in, and normally, we would have to lay down with her until she goes back to sleep. And so she like does the whole like sleepy walk thing, which is hilarious. She like hits things and like kind of laughs. And so she lays down in bed, she covers up, and I'm getting ready to like lay down next to her. And she opens her eyes and looks at me and goes, Daddy, I know you're not feeling good, so you can go back to bed and I'll just fall asleep by myself. It's like, I have so much to learn from you, wise little person. Like, oh my goodness. My daughter has so much compassion. It blows my mind. We'll be walking somewhere and she'll stop me. Like, no, Daddy, stop. It's like, whoa, like what? Like I'm thinking she's saving my life from a car or something. Like, no. And I stop and she's like, there's a roly-poly. We have to rescue him. All right. And then she's like, pick it up. It's like, no. Like, and she gets all like offended, like, why don't you want to pick it up? Because roly-polies play in poop. That's disgusting. Like, roly-polies are like walking poop. Like, no, I'm not going to touch the walking poop. And so, but like, that is her. She is just filled with compassion. So my main idea tonight is let compassion move you. When I see others with compassion, I am moved. I am moved to do something about it as well. Let compassion move you. Because compassion needs action. Without action, it's just sympathy or pity. But compassion is you do something about it. So your first point on your bookmark is a compassion that moves requires action. A compassion that moves requires action. Mark chapter 1, starting in verse 40, says, a man with leprosy came to him and begged him on his knees, if you are willing, you can make me clean. I want you to pause for a second and notice the wording in this. It says, if you're willing, you can make me clean. It's not if you're willing, will you? It's if you're willing, you can. He says, if you're willing, you can make me clean. Jesus was filled with compassion. He reached out his hand and touched the man. I am willing, he said. I am willing. Jesus had compassion. See, what you may not know is leprosy, A, is still a real thing and really icky. And two, what leprosy is when you were a leper, if you had leprosy, you were not allowed around people. They actually, back in the day, they had an island for them. And you're like, oh my gosh, how could they do such a thing? Because leprosy is insanely contagious. And what happens is your body literally falls apart. Like your nose will fall off, not exaggerating, okay? Like it's gnarly, and it is through touch. Like it's insanely contagious. So it's like, yeah, okay, you can put those guys on an island. That'd be cool. And so they are normally not allowed around people. So the fact that this leper is in front of Jesus is already one of those like, okay, wait, I'm listening. Like something's new here. Something has changed. And then two, rule number 1, you don't touch lepers. Period. Like that was the rules. Like, oh, you're a leper, don't touch that guy. Because then you become one. Like, no, like you don't do that. That's like playing with zombies. Like you don't do that, right? Like, oh, you're a zombie? Give me a hug. Like, no, you don't touch zombies. It is a rule, right? So Jesus is filled with compassion. And what does he do? He reaches out and touches the man and says, I am willing to heal. And he wasn't just willing to say it with his words. He was willing to show him that he cared enough that it was personal, that it was a personal investment, that it was a personal point to say, I am willing because I know I can heal. I know I will. Man, Jesus is filled with compassion. In fact, every time Jesus has a compassionate moment, which was often because he was Jesus, and he every time said he was moved with compassion. See, there was always an action attached to it. And it wasn't just a normal action, it was a miraculous action. He healed people, right? He healed the leper. There's a story where in Luke where there's a man, Jesus is just cruising. Like, he's just walking with his homies, right? He rolls 12 deep. I don't know if you guys knew that or not. But, like, he's walking, and Jesus stumbles across a funeral procession. Okay. I don't know if you guys know much about funeral processions, but that usually involves a dead guy. Yeah, what? And he sees this woman, it's a grieving mother, weeping, and he's moved with compassion for her so much that he walks over to her and says, don't cry. And he raises the guy in the coffin from the dead. Like, you're talking about compassion that moves. You're talking about an action attached to not just sympathy or pity, but an action attached to people. That you are moved to affect people. A compassion that moves requires action. There's a guy, little guy named Kid President. Hope you guys know who that is. Yeah, I love Kid President. Well, I was on the interwebs today and stumbled across this video, and I just had to share it with you guys. So.
Some things in life are not easy, like eating with a fork.
Or getting your hand stuck in a snack container. Can you help me with this?
Sure.
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
Trying to act cool when your favorite song comes on the radio. But helping the people around you?
That is simple.
It's easier than you think. You don't have to have all the answers.
You do not have to be super strong, like me. See that?
You just gotta show up. Every person
And every monster.
matters.
It is true.
Sometimes I think I'm too short, but you know what? Life's too short to worry about being too short, but you're never too small
Or too blue and furry.
to make a big difference.
Together, we can change everything.
Everything.
All of the things.
Be like cheese and bacon and make everything else you touch better.
Now I am hungry.
I am too, Grover. I am too. Let's make everything better.
I believe in you. You can do it.
There are over 7 billion people in the world. That's a lot of people. And all of them need help sometimes.
Help? Did you say help? I live to help.
That's because you're a really good friend, Grover.
Aw.
Sometimes life is tough, but so are you.
Do not give up.
Did Ernie give up when his rubber ducky stopped squeaking?
No!
Did Big Bird give up when he knows he couldn't fly?
No!
Did Cookie Monster give up when his cookie jar was empty?
Actually, wasn't that his fault? Never mind. Let's get to it.
What are you doing?
I'm making a pep talk with you, remember?
Oh, not you, Grover. The people who are watching.
Oh, they are watching the internets.
There are almost 600,000 people who are homeless in the United States.
But we are all here to help.
That's right, we are, Grover.
People who make the world better for other people are some of the best people.
It's cool we're on the same planet at the same time.
Let us all be friends.
It's our time to show the world what awesome looks like. KP out!
Grover out! What do I do? Just go under the table here? What?
Yeah, that's what you do, man.
Okay.
I'm still under.
So, compassion takes action. And there's plenty of opportunity for us to take action. And I am personally inspired by it. I was hanging out front last week, and I had a bunch of junior high girls run up to me and all talking like 1,000 miles an hour, and at the same time telling presumably the same story. And lucky for me, I am fluent in middle school girl dialect. And so, yeah, I know. It was the hardest language I've ever learned, actually. And so, while I am deciphering this intricate, well-known dialect of the human species, I realize that they are telling me an incredible story. And I didn't see them. If you're here, you know who I'm talking about. Anyway, so they had met a man who was homeless at the time, and they were moved with compassion for him. So much so that they bought him a meal. And the guy, walked away briskly and was super awkward, apparently. Actually, he was, so awkward. And so, he walked away all fast, and they came across him later, and he stopped them and thanked them. It's like, thank you so much. I love that we are doing those things. I love it. In fact, are you ladies here? No? No, you don't want to stand. You are? Can you stand? You guys are dudes. That's weird. That is a different sermon. So wow, I need more sleep. So we need to be moved with compassion. And I am inspired by many of you guys. I really am. Because you get it. And I feel like so many adults just get so, I don't know what it is, comfortable or complacent or whatever word you want to call it, that we kind of forget about the important things of just holding the door open for someone or saying thank you. All the way to buying a guy who needs a meal. We need to be moved with compassion. Second point is a compassion that moves is worth following. Matthew 14, starting in verse 14. Starting in verse 6. Says, on Herod's birthday, the daughter of Mrs. H, danced for the guests and pleased Herod so much that he promised with an oath to give her whatever she asked. I have given an oath to never make that statement to my daughter. Ever. Yeah, you can have anything that you ask for. Are you? Yeah, right? Yeah. And not like a little pony, but like a big pony. Yeah, no, I'm done. Horses are scary. All right. Verse 8. Prompted by her mother, she said, give me here on a platter the head of John the Baptist. Right? For my birthday, I would like a head. That guy's head. Whoa. Getting real fast. All right. Verse 9 says, the king was distressed, as he should be. But because of his oaths and his dinner guests, he ordered that her request be granted and had John beheaded in the prison. His head was brought in on a platter and given to the girl who carried it to her mother. Okay, I'm going to take a little time out here for a second. For all of you who are like, the Bible's boring, you're reading the wrong Bible. Okay, verse 12. John's disciples came and took his body and buried it. Then they went and told Jesus. Verse 13. When Jesus heard what had happened, he withdrew by boat privately to a solitary place. Hearing of this, the crowds followed him on foot from the towns. See, what's happening is Jesus just found out that a good friend of his was just murdered. And Jesus needs some Jesus time, right? He goes on a boat by himself. He's amongst a bunch of people, and he's like, oh, man, that's terrible news. I need some alone time. And so he goes out on a boat by himself to have some Jesus time. And what do the crowds do? They follow him. Man, if I was Jesus, I'd be so mad. I'd be like, dude, just give me a breather. My friend just died. Really? Come on. But what does Jesus do? Verse 14. He says, when Jesus landed and saw a large crowd, he had compassion on them and healed their sick. Jesus, even in the midst of an awful tragedy, Jesus had compassion and healed all that were sick that day. And his compassion was so great that it caused that crowd to follow him, even when they probably knew they shouldn't. They still followed, because a compassion that moves is worth following. A compassion that moves is something that is worth following and telling people about and being a part of. A compassion that moves will rock the world around you. And the people that it affects the most are the people you love the most. So if we're going to be moved with compassion, we need to know that our closest friends and family are the ones that will be affected by our compassion the most. And that should be inspirational for us. That should be one of those things you're like, yes, I want more of that because I want my friends and family to have more of that. I don't know about you guys, but I feel like we've kind of missed this mark. And I know I'm guilty of it. That we need to stop inviting people to church and start inviting them to Christ. Church is not the place that it's going to happen necessarily. And if it does happen here, awesome. If it does take you inviting them to church so they can come to know Christ, awesome. But church is not the goal. Christ is the goal. We need to stop having compassion for the sake of justice and having compassion for the sake of Jesus. Like, we need to be able to say, no, we love people because Jesus loves people. And we want people to love him back. That is why we have compassion. We have compassion because Jesus had compassion. We have compassion because people will see Jesus in it. We cannot have compassion just for the sake of justice. We have to have it for the sake of Jesus. Because without Jesus, we're just doing a good deed. But the goal is not good. The goal is great. The goal is heaven. The goal is Christ. The goal is to move people to a changed life with him. That's the goal. The goal is to move people to a place so close to Jesus that they cannot help but recognize who he is. And sometimes the best way to do that is by giving a cup of cold water on a hot day. We need to be moved with compassion for the sake of people knowing Christ. I'm going to call worship band back up, and I want us to consider how we can do that. I want us to consider how we can be moved so greatly with compassion that people would see Christ in our compassion. That people would see Jesus in our justice. I want us to think about how we can affect our schools, our friends, our families, our community. And it could be something as simple as giving a cup of cold water on a hot day, or something as grand as, man, let's see if we could stop homelessness. I want to be moved with compassion. And I want to move people to a place where they will know Jesus because Jesus loved them enough to move us to love them also. God, I pray, Jesus, that we would be moved by you. That this would not be one of those things that we want to feel good about ourselves, so we're going to do this. That we want people to know who you are. That people will be moved into your kingdom through our love for them. God, you have promised us that we will be known as Christians by the love we have for one another. And God, you have promised to be there with us through things, through all of it. God, I pray that we would be grateful that we know we're not going alone. God, move us with compassion. Move us with this sense that people matter. God, let us love well because you have loved well. In your name, amen.